Welcome back. This is your Illini Drive. Jeff Ohmer, joined by Cole Henke, Will Gerard, and Ryan Wilson. We just got 2 working mics today, so it looks like my crew of co-hosts will be Cole Henke and Will Gerard. Guys, how's it going here? We got a Friday, obviously a little different crew, mix and match of people. How are you guys feeling heading into the weekend?
You know, I'm feeling pretty good. I'm excited to cover the Illinois football game this weekend. Should be a good one. Western Michigan coming in, MAC opponent. You know, they're a good team, though, and they're going to really give Illinois a run for their money.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what I heard from Cole over here. I think I wouldn't be surprised if Illinois doesn't pull it out a little action tomorrow. I think it'll be a tightly contested game. What are your thoughts on that, Jeff?
You know what, let's get into that a little bit because that's clearly the main topic going on here on campus this weekend. The Western Michigan Broncos are coming in on a 2-0 record to start the 2016-2017 season. Illinois, of course, coming in 1-1 after their loss to North Carolina last weekend. So the Broncos have looked good so far, and they really do look like they're going to pose a tough challenge for the Illini. They're a MAC team, as you mentioned there, Cole, but they have shown a lot of improvement and really a lot of danger for a potential team like the Illini. They opened the season with a big-time win against Northwestern. That game was also in Evanston, so the season was already rowing pretty well from there. And then last week, they beat up on a smaller school pretty badly, putting up 70 points. So this is a team as well that can really score and run the offense really quickly. So it's going to be an interesting battle between the Illini and the Broncos. And I don't know who's necessarily going to end up on top. We can talk about some predictions later on. But just on paper, these teams are very evenly matched, and it's going to be a good battle there tomorrow afternoon at Memorial Stadium.
Yeah, no, the biggest threat to the Illini, I think, is that wide receiver they got, Corey Davis. Dude's got 220 receiving yards on the year. He's looking to be a top 50 NFL prospect for the draft this year. And he's almost got double the yards that Malik Turner has, and he's leading the Illini right now. So Corey Davis is an absolute stud. He's really going to be testing the Illini secondary this weekend. And he's got Zach Terrell thrown to him, and that guy is no pushover either.
Oh, yeah, I definitely second what you're saying there about Corey Davis. I know we talked a little bit about it on the show on Wednesday, but Corey Davis might actually, at the end of the season, be the all-time record holder in receiving yards for FBS. Just 1,000 yards away. This guy has his 3 years so far has put up more than 1,000 yards. Real threat to the Illini defense.
I think you guys are exactly right. And Corey Davis is definitely going to be a big reason why Western Michigan could possibly come into Champaign tomorrow and leave with a victory. Just hearing what Robin Hook said, the play-by-play guy for Western Michigan this week, he is really confident that Corey Davis will one day be an NFL draft prospect and someone he expects to even get drafted in the first round and possibly be the first receiver even drafted out for the NFL. So Corey Davis is definitely no one to mess around with, and the Illini secondary are really going to have their hands full with him if he's able to break free and go down the field for some deep passes. One thing that will really be able to stop that, or at least slow down the passing game for Western Michigan, will be that Illini defensive line, something we've spoken about all year long. That's the primary staple of this Illinois football team. That defensive line is going to have a big game tomorrow against the Broncos, especially to shut down someone like Corey Davis and give him less time to develop a route as he's there at the wide receiver position.
Yeah, no, that their defensive line is really good, actually. They got Carroll Phillips, who's just, exploded so far. He's leading the nation in tackles for a loss this year. And part of that comes from playing alongside a guy like DeJuan Smoot, who's an NFL, they're thinking first round, top 10 draft pick maybe. And those two guys on the line just spells trouble for anybody, really.
No, yeah, for Illinois to have success on Saturday, they're really going to have to get after the quarterback because, as we noted before, there are a lot of playmakers out of that Western Michigan offense. You got a fifth-year QB. You have 2 solid running backs. You have receivers that can stretch the field. So to really alleviate some pressure from the secondary, they're going to have to get in the quarterback's face.
And something that I wanted to talk about a little bit, it was a little bit of our focus on the show on Wednesday, but it's definitely something that the result of this game could also be something that comes to the hands of West Lunt at quarterback. I personally think he needs to step up a lot this weekend against Western Michigan. I think he underperformed against the Tar Heels last weekend, and his lack of comfort or his lack of consistency there in the pocket, I thought, was a big reason why the offense was never able to find a rhythm or a flow aside from just that first possession where Keyshawn broke off for a big run. The offense was really unimpressive last week, and I think they need to take a big step forward this next upcoming game because we've seen it. Western Michigan can put up a lot of points, and they did so last weekend with 70. I don't expect them to get nearly that close against the Illini tomorrow, but Illinois is still going to have to put up, I would imagine, at least 24 if they want to end up on top in this one.
Yeah, I think one thing for Illinois that sort of concerns me is I don't see many receivers who can get open. Like, I don't think, aside from Malik Turner, there aren't really that many playmakers in that offense, and that was sort of what I saw with North Carolina, where it seemed like there were really tight windows that Lunt may have been able to get the ball into, but really have to step it up the rest of the season for that offense to move the ball.
And I think just in general, it looked like there was a lot of miscommunication last weekend between Lund and his receiving core, and I think that was seen basically every play as that play clock would strike down to 0, it seemed. And they're going to have to be on page this weekend, Will, just going off of that point, to get that passing game in motion and to support someone like Keyshawn and give him a break, or even Kendrick Foster if he's there playing some running back tomorrow. That's going to be a big factor, and I think the running game as well is something that the Illini will have to focus on to beat the Broncos tomorrow.
Yeah, I don't know. The running game's going to be, I think, the most important because that's something that the Western Michigan defense really focuses on. I was talking to Coach Garrett McGee, offensive coordinator, on Monday, and he was talking about he studied the Western Michigan defense, and those guys got a really strong philosophy. They believe if they keep the opposing team under 100 rushing yards, they got a 92% chance to win the game. That's like pseudo quote there from McGee. So that's something that'll be really interesting. We got two guys in the Illinois backfield there, Kendrick Foster and Keyshawn Vaughn. Both guys are going to have to show up on Saturday to really make a difference and kind of throw this Western Michigan defense for a loop.
Just a reminder to the listeners out here, you're listening to Illini Drive. This is your Friday edition crew. Jeff Ohmer hosting here with Cole Henke and Will Gerard, my fellow co-host Ryan Wilson over there behind our social media. You can tweet at us at Illini Drive. You can also just follow us on Facebook. Ryan's always working during the show and posting up all of our latest talks, so make sure to follow us there as you listen along. And if you have any questions for us, feel free to also give us a call, 217-337-1071. Our phone lines will be open all show long. We're here till 7 o'clock, and we're open for any questions, looking to keep the conversation rolling about anything out in the sports world. Realistically, we're going to talk Illinois football for a little bit more here, and then we'll get to baseball and other national news down the line. But feel free to call, once again, 217-337-1071. And once again, you're listening to Illini Drive on WPGU 1071, brought to you by the Illinois Fighting Illini. For tickets and information on the Illini, visit fightingillini.com or call 1-866-ILLINI1. Once again, fightingillini.com or call 1-866-ILLINI1 for ticket information. Speaking of football and tickets in general, guys, what are your expectations and feelings going into tomorrow's game?
I don't know. I think Illinois is going to pull this one out. Real close game. Like, seriously, down to the wire. It's never going to feel comfortable for either fan base, you know? And I don't know. I think one of the things that a great coaching staff can give you is the ability to bounce back, you know, so just re-inspire you, get those guys back out on the field and play well. We're not going to have any back-to-back losses just getting blown off the field, you know, just getting destroyed.
I think I agree with that statement. One thing is that even though this is a MAC opponent, like on the surface, you might look at it and think, oh, like Illinois should roll these guys. It's like Middle Tennessee last year, easy win. I mean, really, these are two like very evenly matched teams. So I think the outcome will come down to a few plays. So it'll be interesting to see how those guys step up under pressure.
One thing that I thought was a big reason why Illinois struggled last week against North Carolina is the penalties. We haven't touched on penalties yet and how big of a role they played last weekend. But 13 penalties, I believe, for the Illini for 99 total yards, nearly giving up a touchdown. in regards to penalty yardage there against North Carolina. I said it on Wednesday, and I'll say it again. That's something that Illinois is going to have to take care of business. They're going to have to play a lot fresher and a lot less sloppy in that regard. They're going to have to come out with consistency and really follow the game plan and not make any mental or simple mistakes like that that could give Western Michigan any advantage.
Yeah, what I'm most intrigued about here is that I know like last week was a huge game, high energy, kind of national attention. So I think this game might be interesting in seeing where Illinois stands, what to expect for them the rest of the year in terms of, like, is this a team that's going to commit a lot of penalties? Is this a team that's going to struggle to move the ball, or was that just a little bit of an anomaly last weekend?
We talked about the penalties a little bit on Tuesday, and I don't know. I think that had a lot to do with the crowd. Those guys got really it was really loud there, and those guys have never played, in front of a sellout crowd in Memorial Stadium before, and that can really provide some adrenaline there. And I think that kind of got in their heads a little bit. They got overexcited. They had a ton of energy. And, I don't think that's going to be a lasting problem.
Well, I think ironically then, if you're going to go off of that point, the penalties themselves would have quieted the crowd as well, and that's a big reason why I think a team like North Carolina was able to easily stomp Illinois at home last weekend, was because the electricity that was once in that stadium to start off the game was completely sucked out from slow down in the action, whether it's a penalty or just any type of delay to slow down the rhythm of the game. So Illinois fans, I'm not sure how many will be there tomorrow, but I would expect the numbers to be relatively strong still for the Illini before they go on a break after this game.
With such an experienced coaching staff, too, I think it'd be really surprising to see them struggle with penalties in that way. So if that is the case, then I think that might fall on the players more so than anything.
Well, that's all the Illini football talk I think we'll have for you guys today. We're going to take a break now. Our first break of the show. Once again, you're listening to Illini Drive right here on WPGU 107.1. Make sure you stay tuned, because coming up after this, we'll talk about some MLB news and the latest NL Central clinching Cub. Welcome back into Illini Drive, your Friday edition here. Jeff Ohmer, joined by Cole Henke, Will Gerard, and Ryan Wilson. Guys, we're going to transition our talks to MLB baseball now. We'll focus specifically, at least to kick things off, in the NL Central. Not the best of days to be a Cardinal fan, I guess, but if you're a Cubs fan, I'm sure you're pretty happy to see what happened here yesterday, technically, but today as well. The Cubs winning on a walk-off home run by Miguel Montero in the 10th inning and solidifying their NL Central Division title as well for the regular season. We have a split crew here of fans. Will Gerard, I think you're the lone Cub.
Yeah, it's not even really split. It's a little 3-1 action here. I think I'm a little overmatched.
Well, what do you guys think of what happened not only yesterday, but just so far this season in the NL Central? The Cubs really blew things out of the water from the get-go. I believe they've really expanded their lead as well during the second half of the season. It's been super impressive for them winning the title so early now, with a couple weeks still remaining in the regular season. What are your guys' thoughts on what happened here the past couple of weeks in this overall beginning of the Central?
Well, yeah, you touched on it a little bit, but it's been super strange to see such a not really competitive race here. That, I mean, it's kind of been wrapped up for the Cubs for a while, and as a fan, at least, it's almost hard to tune in every day, just knowing that these games don't really mean necessarily as much. And I think it'll be interesting to see how the Cubs are able to flip that switch once playoff baseball starts up again, because now they have a couple weeks to rest up, try a few new guys out there, and really see what works. I mean, they obviously have the formula down at this point. I think it'll be interesting to see if these guys are still chasing some individual accomplishments. I know there's a Cy Young race here between Lester and Hendricks. Likewise, there's Chris Bryan going for the MVP, so I think that might be something that those guys will have an eye on while they're playing games that might not mean as much. But I mean, there's still a lot of baseball left to be played within the Central, so it'll be interesting to see who's hot once the playoffs start.
Yeah, I hope they rest everybody for the rest of the season here, because the Cardinals are the only NL...
Facebook for Dummies.
Hey, I know how to work Facebook, Jeff. You don't have to play that for me there. No, yeah, I hope they rest everybody. The Cardinals are the last NL wild card team in contention to play the Cubs the rest of the year, and currently one game back of the Mets. So, yeah, Will, go ahead and tell your team to rest everybody so we can pick up those games, pick up that sweep.
All right, yeah. I'm going to have to just dial up Joe Madden, see what he says about it. Maybe we get him to call into the show even, right? The request line is 337-1071. So if you're listening out there, Joe, just give us a call.
And if you're not even Joe Madden, if you're just your average listener just in the area, feel free to give us a call as well, 217-337-1071. Once again, 217-337-1071. Cole, what you got?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like Joe Madden, is he kind of a weird guy?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I feel like this would be the show he would call into if he was going to call into a radio show. That just seems like a Joe Madden thing to do, just listen to a college radio show 3 hours south.
Yeah, Ryan, just send him a bunch of tweets. We'll see what happens.
Well, boys, now that the Cubs have wrapped things up in the Central, we'll move down the ranks a little bit to the wild card standings. You see the Cardinals there, a game back. It's the Giants in the first spot, the Mets in the second spot. They're up a game. How do you see the wild card finishing with these final weeks of the season counting down?
With my bias showing, Cardinals slide into that 2 spot with the Giants, and then who knows with that wild card game. You never know what's going to happen with that. But objectively, I don't know. I don't feel too good about the Cardinals. Like, just looking at them on paper, they've been super inconsistent. Like, they just went 26 games straight hitting a home run, but their pitching couldn't work, and now it just seems like nothing's really going.
That's got to be the biggest concern for the Cardinals, that consistency, and specifically when it does come to their pitching. They were knocking home runs out of the park game in and game out. You just mentioned it there, Colin. Their offense has definitely been a staple of their team this season, just the home run ball in general.
Which is weird, by the way.
Very weird, not common.
When has the offense been the face of a Cardinals team, like the outright only way we can win since maybe, like, was there a time between now and Mark McGwire?
I can't think of another time. And that's the thing. This year's team is a lot different than other years in the past. And it's different to see the offense be what we depend on to.
Which I think is one of the problems, because before this season, I don't think that was the idea. I don't think the offense was supposed to be something that the Cardinals rely on for the season.
Maybe not, maybe, because they did bring in a bat like Jed Jerko. They kept Brandon Moss as well. So I don't know. Maybe they did think that the offense was going to have to play some role, but I don't think any team in the MLB would want to have to depend on an offense to hit a home run, let's say, every night if that's going to mean to a win.
Yeah. I mean, would you have to say that part of that just has to do with injuries they've had to their pitching staff, too?
Maybe.
I mean, isn't that starting, like, isn't like the starting pitchers, aren't they a little depleted there with, Wainwright?
Yeah, but it's not like when the guys were healthy, they were pitching well. Like, Jaime's not anywhere near where he used to be. Michael Wacha had his flash in the pan, and then he looks like just an average pitcher now. Wainwright's, I'm not going to say on the decline, because he's, I've watched him.
He's done.
Hey, be quiet. No, he's on the way down. The only one that's actually maybe even played to expectations is Carlos Martinez.
Carlos Martinez has definitely been a very exciting face to see all season long. He's one of my favorite parts of the Cardinals, especially when players hit home runs. Speaking of the home run again. Loves to see him splash water in the players' faces as they come down the dugout there.
This was a few weeks ago, but maybe even a few months ago, but when Wainwright hit a home run like a long while back, he asked to splash Adam Wainwright. Did you see that?
No, I did not.
Normally, Carlos Martinez will just take that water and just throw it right in their face. But as soon as Wainwright came down the whole line, he stood there and saw Carlos Martinez, and then he was like, "Can I?" And he's like, "Yes." And then he threw the water on him. He has so much respect for that guy that he just has to ask. And I don't know if that's because he has respect or he was scared that Wainwright just might beat him up.
Well, I want to take this conversation back to the Cubs and just the NL playoff picture in general.
Do we have to?
Yeah, we have to, because let's face it. The best part about baseball is coming up. It's going to be October soon. It's going to be postseason baseball, and realistically, that's what my eyes will be glued on for a couple weeks. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but with the combination of football as well, it's going to be arguably one of the best times of the year to be a sports fan. So getting into the playoff talk specifically on the NL, if you're the Cubs, you're going to have to play one of the teams coming out of the wild card. It's the Giants, the Mets, the Cardinals, and the Marlins right now that are the top four. Who out of those teams do you think is the most favorable for the Cubs?
I'm not sure there. I think you might be a little nervous about seeing the Mets in St. Louis again after last year because, I mean, both those teams field competitive rosters, and you really never know what could happen in such a short series. I know the Cubs have handled San Francisco pretty handily this season in terms of just win-loss, but once again, it's sort of one of those things where you really never know when a team's going to get hot. I'd say that I really wouldn't want to see St. Louis. I mean, it'd be nice to see them beat St. Louis in the playoffs again, but 2 years in a row, just that almost makes me a little nervous to see how that would shake out. So I think I'd have to go with San Francisco, even though they're the ones who are in the top spot there. So that's probably who I'd want to see.
I think just from my opinion, St. Louis or the Mets would give the Cubs just a run for their money the most, I would say. The Mets, of course, after beating them last year, really stomping on them last year, and it started with the pitching. Nothing has really changed this year with that team. So I think they would definitely compete with the Cubs. And I'd like the Cardinals, too, just because an NL Central opponent. They've seen them numerous times this season. They've had a decent record so far as well against the Cubs, but like to see if the other team can end up on top this year. The Cubs will have home field advantage, something they didn't have last season. That could be a positive for any game they play in the playoffs, whether it's the Mets, the Giants, or the Cardinals in that opening series.
Quite frankly, as long as the Cubs don't see Daniel Murphy, I'm okay with it. So that's my thoughts about the playoffs. I think that they've got the pitching staff, they've got the hitters. Really, these guys just have to go out there and perform when it comes down to it.
Who are you most scared of in the playoffs overall, not the wild card?
I think you gotta honestly. I think you gotta look at the wild card. I don't think the Nationals are a team to worry about. I don't think the Dodgers are a team to worry about. I think when you look down to it, every team that's in contention for a wild card has been there and done it before. And that's why I think they will pose the biggest challenge to the Cubs and ultimately to the NL title and then the World Series. The Giants, Mets, and Cardinals in the past have had a lot of success. The Cubs having a lot of their success now. But I think those are the teams that you really have to focus on, and I truly think that whoever wins that first series after the wild card, that first one against the Cubs, that team's going to the World Series.
All right. I don't know. It means, like you said, it's kind of a toss-up really with a lot of those series. You have Washington. They've got a few power arms. They got Scherzer. They've got Strasburg. Never really know how those guys are going to show up. You got, the Dodgers. I guess that's maybe who I'd want to see if I'm the Cubs. There are really no real names that are coming to mind as serious threats. But once again, it's even when you're playing in that division series, all you got to do is win 3 games. It's really not much. The playoffs could start. You could have 3 bad games, and that could be it. That was the case for the Cubs in 2008 when they won the division. So we'll see how it shakes out.
That Cubs pitching staff there, you got guys like Arrieta and you got Kyle Hendricks. Who's that third guy that you're always looking to definitely lock up a win? Do you have one, or what's the?
Well, yeah, I think they're pretty stacked because one person that you forgot there is you have Lester at the top also. He can't. He struggles a little bit throwing the bases, but that hasn't really been a huge concern this season. After that, you also got Lackey. He's a big game player. He makes me a little nervous when the pressure's really on and the crowd's going a little wild. I think he gets a little too amped up sometimes on the mound, but he's shown that he can perform in the big games.
Yeah, I apologize. I completely forgot about Lester. That's a big guy to have on your pitching staff too. That pitching staff is pretty solid.
Yeah, one thing I think is really surprising, especially is if you were talking to me last year, I'd be shocked if you were if someone said, "Oh yeah, Arrieta might pitch Game 3 for the Cubs in the playoffs," and that really could be the case.
You think that's going to be the case?
That's what I've heard. I've heard a lot of talk of Hendricks and Lester with the first 2. So.
Well, Hendricks has been consistent.
They
all
have
season
arguably
long.
the better seasons, but I think Arrieta's. He's got to be the guy. If the Cubs are going to win the World Series, they're going to need a big performance from Arrieta.
interesting that you bring up Lester because he's almost an arm that's been forgotten in the picture. Or not Lester, I'm sorry, Lackey. He's been an arm, I'd say, that's been forgotten in this rotation.
Yeah, he's kind of a baller. I sort of see his role being one where he might come out of the pen, actually, if they just need a few innings there, or if there's, like, that they got bad. Because I know they've had a few games this season where, like, when it's going into extras or whatever, he's the one who's warming up when he's got to start the next day. So, I mean, it'll be really – I'm not sure how much time he'll get out there on the mound, but he definitely could play a key role, especially when we see in October how it comes down to bullpens a lot of the time.
I'm going to take it back to the Cardinals here for a second. I just want to say I want them to make it so bad to that series with the Cubs just so I can see how Luke Weaver and Reyes both pitch in the playoffs.
Do you think that they would get an appearance? Do you think that they'd start or play at least?
They definitely pitch. We don't have the arms to have them not pitch. They're super important, and I don't know. That's where those guys can really shine and really prove that they are the real deal, like they've been advertised.
Well, I think if it's the Cardinals or any other team coming out of that wild card game, they have a great shot of beating the Cubs, and I think any team can win a DS game, whether it's the NL or AL, just because it is a best-of-5 series, which truly isn't that many if you just have to win 3 games. So I think it's a toss-up either way, and I don't think the Cubs will have an easy route necessarily with either team that they could face. Couple weeks still to go in the season, though, so all this talk is all nothing realistically because everything could be changing a week from now. But it's always fun to talk about what's happening, and at the very least, the Cubs did clinch the Central, so we know that won't be changing at all this season. We're going to go to a break really quick before we come back and have some more sports talk for you guys. Make sure to keep on staying tuned here. It's WPGU 107.1.
Hail to the orange. Hail to the blue. Hail alma mater, ever so true. We love no other, so let our motto be victory. Illinois, varsity. Secure your seats for Fighting Illini football today by phone at 1-866-ILLINI-1 or online at fightingillini.com.
And we are back with Illini Drive. I'm Cole Hankey with Jeff Ohmer, Will Gerard, and Ryan Wilson. And to all you listeners out there, I have a very important question for you. Where should I get dinner after the show?
All right, so to get this going here, I'm gonna have to pull you a little bit. Are you down for a sub sandwich? Are you looking for some pizza? I'm trying to think. Probably Green Street, right? I think that makes the most sense for you based on where we're located, right?
Yeah, I don't want to walk all the way back to get my car and drive around. That just seems like too much effort, So I'm trying to stick to Green Street, maybe the area, maybe a few streets up. There's a Subway around, but no. I had pasta. I had Fazoli's for lunch today, so I'd rather not hit the Italian field, because I got a slice of pizza with that too. So I'm really up for anything though.
It's really a tough call. So you already had Italian today, is what you're telling me.
Yeah.
So I know there's a Zip right across the street. That's more Italian though. So I don't think you want pizza.
All right, we'll cut this conversation now. If you have an opinion on where I should eat, tweet it in, at Illini Drive, or call in on the request line 337-1071, or tweet at us at Illini Drive. Here's Ryan Wilson talking a little Paralympics.
Hi, I do have a voice. Wow. Alright, so yeah, the Paralympic stuff was fun to cover, of course. Been doing it for the GI. So the USA women's wheelchair basketball team won gold today, and they have 3 former Illini para-athletes, and the head coach of the team is the current Illinois women's wheelchair basketball coach. So they won gold today, pretty exciting. And then also Tatiana McFadden, big athlete for Illinois, has won 5 medals in Rio. Her most recent one came last night. And also last night, she raced in the 4x400 relay, and her team was disqualified. I do not know the reason, but I think it's pretty interesting because she is amazing, and they've been doing some just terrific times, but then you get disqualified for this one event, and there's not too much coverage on why she was disqualified or anything about that.
For the viewers who are unaware, Ryan, could you kind of explain just the legacy of Tatiana McFadden, sort of her accomplishments?
Yeah, so before Rio, Tatiana McFadden had won 12 medals. 5 of those had been gold. And she has competed in the Summer Olympics and the Winter Olympics. In the Winter Olympics, she's a big skier. So it's interesting to see the transition between racing on a track and then racing down snow. So she's not too bad. But yeah, I don't know if this will be her last one. I'm not sure, but on Thursday, I met with a couple of her teammates, and they said that she can go 25 miles an hour downhill, but there are no brakes when you reach that point. You just don't worry about brakes. So
Yeah, when you said that she was amazing, that is no understatement, people. She not only does she have all of those Olympic medals, but I think she's won more marathons than I can count. Honestly, it's like ridiculous. It seems like every other week we hear, "Oh yeah, Tatiana McFadden won another marathon, guys." We're just like, "Oh, all right, cool, yeah, that's awesome."
she's probably won more marathons than you have fingers, Cole.
I mean, I think it's incredible just to like kind of wrap your head around that she's in these races where it's 100 meters, like quick sprint, and then turns around and she's also doing marathon twos. I didn't even know that she participated in the Winter Olympics. Like, would you say that she might be the greatest Paralympic athlete of all time?
I don't know. That is a tough question. There are actually multiple para-athletes that have competed in both the Winter and Summer Paralympics. There is one athlete that has won close to 50 medals, which is ridiculous.
Oh,
I don't know how you win 50 medals. That's insane.
I just looked this up to figure out exactly how many marathons she won, but I didn't find the exact number. But in 2013, she won the Chicago, London, Chicago again, and New York marathons, becoming the first man or woman, able-bodied or disabled, to win the Grand Slam 4 world major marathons in the same year. That is ridiculous.
She's done it the past couple years.
Wait, what?
Yeah. Keep reading, Cole.
Oh, yeah, and then repeated her Grand Slam victory in 2014. In 2015, she already won both London and Boston and is poised to win the Grand Slam for a 3rd year in a row.
Yeah.
But it's 2016.
Pretty ridiculous. And then also one of her teammates pushed across the entire nation. That's pretty crazy. Of course, he had brakes. But for some of those para-athletes, they don't get tired pushing until they reach, like, 62 miles. I'd get tired pushing, like, out of my room.
I get tired driving 62 miles.
Can you even stay awake that long?
No.
No, I didn't think so.
Yeah.
Wow.
So when you say going across the country, what do you mean by that, Ryan? And who was it?
It was one of her teammates on the Illinois wheelchair track team. A couple years ago, I'm not 100% sure why he did it, but I'm sure it was for some great reason, possibly a cause of some sort. But the amount of training that goes into it, and dieting, and the type of injuries you can get is insane.
The Paralympics, of course, are going on right now. Ryan, you've been watching some of it, I would imagine, right? What are you keeping your eyes on now, looking forward here? Because how much longer are they going on for?
As the Paralympics ends on Sunday, my eye is on tomorrow. It's Saturday. That's obviously the best day of the week. But also, tomorrow is Team USA's men's wheelchair basketball team, and they're competing in the final for the gold. So we could have gold for the men's team and the women's team, and Tatiana is also back on the track for a marathon on Sunday before the closing ceremony, which is a great way to go out if you win.
Ryan, what do you have to say about sort of the lack of coverage overall over the Paralympics? because I think out of everybody I follow on Twitter, and that's over like 600 people, you've probably given me the most information about it.
Well, thanks. I think you've been stalking me a little bit too closely. But yeah, Will and I talked about this over the break, and it's interesting to see the dynamic between regular Olympics and the Paralympics. There's not too much coverage for the Paralympics, which is kind of disappointing, because look at these athletes. Not everybody who is able-bodied could do what they're doing. I know probably you guys couldn't, and most people I know could not push 62 miles. It'd be interesting to see if Lovie Smith could do it, or Malik Turner, but I doubt that. But yeah, it's disappointing for me, for them, and I think for the entire university, because Illinois is one of the most well-known universities for wheelchair athletes, and this is the home of wheelchair athletics. And to not cover them is insane. And plus, if you look at these marathons, their prize for winning is a third of what the able-bodied athletes would get. So, like, as compared to 15,000, Tatiana may get 5,000 or 3,000.
One thing I think is kind of baffling as well is when with the Olympics we see all these storylines where we're hearing about what Phelps is eating every single day practically. It seems like with these athletes there'll be nothing but storylines for these people overcoming adversity, making it to the Olympics.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I don't care what they're eating. They can win, for Pete's sakes. They can eat chicken wings every day and they can still win. But it's interesting because when a general person would talk about the Paralympics, they would say they're inspirational, for Pete's sakes. They're inspirational para-athletes. What do you mean by inspirational? What do you mean by that? How are they inspirational? They're inspirational because they maybe don't have legs and they can push in a chair. Well, I don't think that's what they're going for. They're not going to be inspirational because they're conquering that adversity. No, some para-athletes want to be inspirational by inspiring other people like them to do exactly what they're doing. So when I am covering the Paralympics, I am going at it as they don't have disabilities. Yeah, it's worth acknowledging that they do have disabilities and impairments, but that's not what they're there for. They're there to compete and win and make their nation proud.
Yeah, it's not exactly like they have they're just fantastic athletes among their own, just everybody. They're just ridiculous athletes, and they probably would be ridiculous athletes even if they were able-bodied. These guys are, like Tatiana, one of the best athletes I've ever heard of. Like, the stuff she does is insane.
Right, yep. They have huge muscles. Tatiana's probably like the female version of Arnold Schwarzenegger when he was younger. And then there's one guy on the wheelchair basketball team. He's about my size. He can bench 200 pounds. Not too shabby. That's like 4 me's.
Okay, and by the way, if you're a student at the University of Illinois and you go to the Arc and watch these guys practice, they all have better jump shots than I played basketball in high school than my entire high school basketball team. These guys are they're so good at what they do, and it's such a shame that they don't get the coverage that they deserve.
Yeah, but I think that'll change this year with the DI, though.
What do you think, Ryan, we should see with the final medal count? Will the U.S. end up way ahead of everyone else?
Actually, right now, China is in the lead by about 100.
Wow.
How they did that. Where'd they come from? They're ridiculous. But U.S. is in 4th right now, last time I checked. And I think they could climb up to 2nd, maybe. Be a stretch. But I think 3rd is pretty sure on that one.
See, I think that just proves our point right there. Is I just assume that the U.S. would be way ahead like we saw in the Olympics, and it's like we're not seeing that coverage of these teams. So.
Nope, China's on top of it.
Well, Ryan, do you have any other final thoughts before we head to our break here?
Not really. I just say go USA. Let's bring home some more golds, and maybe we'll beat China next time.
Well, thank you very much, Ryan, for giving us your insight there on the Paralympics happening right now and finishing as well this weekend in Brazil. We're going to head to our final break on the Illini Drive here. Make sure you stay tuned because we're coming back with a little bit of random sports talk to end out the segment. You're watching or listening to Illini Drive WPGU 107.1. Welcome back to Illini Drive. Jeff Ohmer, Cole Henke, Will Gerard, and Ryan Wilson. We're going to finish out the show here today. You are listening to Illini Drive on WPGU 107.1, brought to you by the Illinois Fighting Illini. For tickets and information on the Illini, visit fightingillini.com or call 1-866-ILLINI-1. Once again, fightingillini.com or call 1-866-ILLINI-1. Speaking of those Illini guys, we'll jump back to our first segment conversation with Illinois football. Predictions. Let's talk some predictions going into tomorrow's game against Western Michigan. Who you guys got as the favorite for tomorrow?
Well, first of all, here I'm a little disappointed that no one has tweeted us or called because it looks like Cole is just going to starve now that he doesn't know where to eat. But if you really want a prediction out of me, I think I'm gonna call the upset here. I say 28-24 Western Michigan.
All right, well, I'm going to I'm looking it up right now, the lines, because as of Wednesday, Illinois was actually a 3-point underdog.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Vegas had him as an underdog, which was very interesting because, they are playing at Memorial Stadium. But predictions, it's going to be close. 3-point game, Illinois, 31-28. Illinois wins.
I think Illinois is going to end up on top. I think it's going to be not as close as a game as people might be predicting. I think it's going to be more of a game where it could be close for the first half, but I think Illinois will really figure things out after halftime. And I think at the end of the day, it's going to be a 10-point win for the Illini. It might be close through three quarters, but I really do think that Illinois is going to end up the team pulling away at the end of the game at Memorial Stadium as well. What do you guys think is going to be the reason why Team Western Michigan or Team Illinois wins tomorrow?
Wes Lunt. I think he's going to come back and have a good game. Play solid. Really show why he's being touted as a NFL draft pick. I think he's really going to make those throws, be comfortable in the pocket. I think that that coaching staff is going to make some changes that'll allow that. And yeah, Jeff, looks like Illinois is still the 3-point underdog. So if you are you willing to bet on that 10-point prediction?
I don't think we should be talking about gambling right here. Will, what do you got here for the reason why Western Michigan would take that win?
I think Western Michigan just takes the win because I don't think that defense has really proven itself. I don't know how they're going to fare against that offense. They had a lot of trouble on third downs against North Carolina, and it seemed like that team was able to move the ball fairly easily. So I just, for Illinois to win, they're gonna have to take away the ball and they're gonna have to establish the run. And I'm not really sure those two things are gonna happen on Saturday.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen for the Illini on Saturday. We've been talking about it all week long, and it seems like every week we're always just waiting until that Saturday finally comes. And tomorrow it will be here. The Western Michigan Broncos and the Fighting Illini kick off at Memorial Stadium at 3 p.m. I think the game's on ESPNU.
News?
ESPN News, maybe? Some ESPN
Who has
family
ESPN
network.
News? Does anybody have ESPN News? I don't have ESPN News.
I'm not too sure. I'm going to be at the stadium watching the game.
Me too.
What do you guys think is the importance of this game tomorrow? And if the Illini win, where do you think they're going? If they lose, where do you think they're going?
Right now, I don't think it's an important game, obviously. It'll be the first quarter of their season over, going into the bye week, going into Big Ten play. And I don't know. I was going to actually ask you if Illinois, I'm going to answer your question with a question. If Illinois loses this game, do you think there will be any, how many, there's obviously going to be some, but how many do you think there will be hot take spewers saying Lovie Smith doesn't have what it takes to be an Illinois head football coach?
Oh, my goodness. I hope that's not the case because I really don't want to have to listen to that. But you're right. I definitely would think that if they do lose tomorrow, someone will probably be bold enough to make that type of statement. And I hope that no one does make that statement. I hope that they realize that what Lovie Smith is doing this season is nothing in terms of how he's going to be doing for his entire career with the Illini. And in the simplest of terms, the players that are out in the field this season aren't his players.
He's coaching Beckman and Cubitt players. I mean, we're already seeing the recruits who are coming to Illinois, and they've yet to even show that success really on the field yet. So, if someone's saying that, like, I don't think I would take it seriously. I mean, this game is important in terms of if Illinois will make a bowl game this year, because I know that they're kind of hovering around maybe that 5-win, 6-win area. So you really have to win those non-conference games when you get the chance. And I think winning this would go a long way before the bye and the start of the Big Ten season. So for that reason, I know losing would really be tough to have to hear these hot takes for a week straight as there's no football. So it's important, but like, I think it's also important not to blow things out of proportion too much. It's still the first year for Lovie Smith.
I really hope there's hot takes. Those are so entertaining for me. I do not believe that if let me get this clear, if they lose this weekend, I still think Lovie Smith has what it takes to be an Illinois head football coach. But those things are just so fun to read.
So wait, you're saying a coach who led an NFL team to a Super Bowl is capable of coaching at Illinois?
That is my hot take, yes.
Hot. Wow.
Guys, I think the air conditioning broke again. It's getting real hot again.
Well, let's hope that's not the case come Saturday. Illinois, I think, and we all think, will be in a battle on Saturday, regardless of who ends up on top. It's going to be a close game, we expect, at Memorial on 3 o'clock. Well, that's going to wrap up today's show as the clock is striking 7 o'clock. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you to my panel of guests and hosts as well, Cole Henke, Will Gerard, and social media man Ryan Wilson. I'm your host, Jeff Ohmer. We're going to sign off here. We'll be back next week, Monday through Friday, same time, 6 to 7 o'clock. And I believe we have a pregame show as well for Memorial Stadium going on tomorrow.
Yeah. I think that's what Will was setting up earlier today, right?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
I just got into the studio pretty much a minute or two before we went on air. It was quite the debacle with the van.
So make sure to tune in to WPGU 107.1 tomorrow in the afternoon. We'll have a crew there live to preview Illinois football versus Western Michigan. So once again, for the rest of my crew, thank you for tuning in to Illini Drive tonight. Have a good weekend and make sure you keep on listening to WPGU 107.1.